Okay.
There we go. Okay, I want to have a chat with somebody here about an issue that we've been going on for about a year. And your name is?
Tom Mann, Charles.
And you are?
I'm the Executive Director of the New Brunswick Union and the Coordinator of Democracy for New Brunswick.
How long has this been going on now?
Well, this coalition formed back in December of 2009, 6 weeks after the announced sale of NB Power to Hydro-Quebec. And the coalition has evolved from NB Power Not for Sale to Public Power for the Public Good, which was the coalition through the election campaign. And in November, we've morphed again into simply Democracy for New Brunswick.
So we had scale, regrade every political parties, and some replied, some didn't, and we had an election, and this is the first report since the new government.
It's good that you're bringing up that history because after the NB Power deal was pulled, we sat around and said, well, what was that really all about? And it came down to democracy. Many New Brunswickers felt that the NB Power deal did not pass the smell test for them. And there was something wrong. Decisions that have great impact on New Brunswickers were being made by a small number of non-elected people behind closed doors. And from our rally back in March, which had the theme of democracy and bringing back a sense of confidence for New Brunswickers in their political process. I mean, for 30 years they've pushed us away and had us believe collectively, not just here in New Brunswick, but across the country and across the Western world, that the citizens really don't have a place in democracy. And a group of us got together and said, well, we've got to do something about that. So we started an exercise back in May and June, leading up to the election. We had a 4-month report card system where all registered parties, all 5 of them, made written submissions to us, and we graded them on a monthly basis. And there was 4 large categories: public engagement, government ethics, code of conduct for MLAs, and electoral reform. And from that, there were 16 subcategories. The Progressive Conservative Party made 28 undertakings under those 16 categories. And what we're doing now is making them accountable for those. We didn't want these just to be promises that they made before the election to get elected. And they're still talking the talk about public engagement and public consultation.
How is he doing that?
Well, I think after 4 months,
is the honeymoon's over?
No, well,
still not on the honeymoon?
Well, in terms of the principles that they brought to us and made undertakings to New Brunswickers, we're seeing here today that they promised these points to be done in 6 months. We're 4 months into that 6-month period, and we're showing that half a dozen of the 24 that they said would be accomplished they're working on them. It's our job now to monitor and track over the next 2 months the completion of all these 24, and we'll mark them as non-complete or no-go, that they've breached their undertaking. We're hopeful that they don't, because if they don't, then our state of democracy and the sense of confidence in our political leaders will actually rise. And we were at an all-time low a year ago. People were very dismayed by the quality of the practice of democracy, and this coalition is trying to improve that.
So how, like me, myself, I gotta praise the Premier for his, to reply to myself, or if I want to interview with him, or there's no problem. He has an open door. He hasn't shut it yet. Sean Graham, you couldn't really have access to the Premier. So is the Conservative government, with these meetings they're having for the budget, are you satisfied?
Well, it's a work in progress. I think we have to be encouraged. But I also know that citizens have a responsibility.
Yes.
They can have these meetings, but if no one shows up, or if they have these meetings and it's simply a confrontation, well, they're not going to want to come out and confront. These are to provide for real exchanges between the elected and those who they represent. So we have a responsibility to be respectful but continue to demand that these meetings take place. And that's one area where this government has a lot of work to do in the next 2 months. They promised and undertook that their candidates would hold monthly public meetings if they were elected. Well, there's, 42, 43 MLAs elected as progressive conservatives.
Has any done it yet?
They're telling us that there's, that the Premier himself has held a meeting. Well, that's one of 43. You know, we're being told that many are using social network and tweeting and texting. So I think in your example, the access is still wide open.
Yeah.
But those aren't really meaningful public engagement sessions.
I mean,
So
it's just like in Power when the Facebook had 20,000 members, 32,000 members. Come on, you think there's going to be 30,000 people that's going to show up at a protest? You know,
No.
I mean, that's social.
Yeah, and we need to have that. So
Network.
that's an element. That's that's the way the citizens mobilize and exchange information.
Yeah.
And when you think of what a democracy is, it's an exchange of information. And New Brunswickers have the right to know.
But when you're anonymous, you could do anything, say anything, but action speaks louder than words, especially on the information highway.
Well, yes, but I think there's a responsibility when people have an opinion that if it's constructive, that they come out and speak that publicly.
Exactly.
And I think in the same vein that the politicians, we really have to teach them how to react with us, not them teaching us how to react to them. And when you look at what democracy is in the old Greek language, Charles, it's democracy. You know what that means?
What?
People power.
Yep.
That's what democracy is. And we got to get back to where public policy actually comes from the public. That there's opportunities for citizens to become engaged in that discussion. That's what democracy. It's not only voting every 4 years. Democracy has to take place in this province on a daily basis on the issues that are important to New Brunswickers.
Very well said. And a part one. I'll get part two.